canto. The chapter is entitled The Characteristics of Lord Rishabhdev. And we're in the section describing his activities and his means of caring for the citizens. He's caring for the population. Today's text is number 19. Oh, he did 19 yesterday. And that was the last one because he did 2 yesterday. Chapter 5, Lord Rishabhdev teaching to his sons. Yes, it's very heavy duty. He's passing on to another stage of life, leaving his sons. He's been caring for them and educating them, and now he's saying, gentlemen, I'm stepping down, I'm going away, and I'm turning over the responsibility of government.
Rishabhdev was a good king.
He ruled the land, caring for the people with a loving hand. Called upon his son and said, boys, I'm giving you the kingdom now. My time has come. It's a song. It's a song, really. The boys said, Dad, your hair ain't even gray. Why are you leaving now? And he said, remember the next verse, Ganeshaka? Die before you die. Right? Don't try to get too cozy here. Human being has a choice. Accept austerity as in Vishnu's name if you hear my voice. What he said. Right? Isn't it? Don't try to get too cozy here. Okay, in this chapter there's a description of the Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is different from the cozy attitude. People are endeavoring to make themselves comfortable based on their conditioning, based on what's pleasing to the mind and senses. In this chapter there's a description of Bhagavatam, religious principles in devotional service that transcend religious principles for the liberation and the mitigation of material misery. Two kinds of religious principles. Religious principles for the liberation and mitigation of material misery, and religious principles in devotional service. Right? Yesterday, Merle Gopal was speaking about how we should act according to propensity, find something that we're comfortable doing, that we're inclined to do, that we can go on steadily with. We have to be careful that we don't just get in a rut and do what I like, and what I like, and make that the criteria for my religious activity. Naturally, we want to do what we...
That was not for the person. That was for the management.
For the management, right. The management manages to bring us from the point of religious activities for the mitigation of material activity to the point of religious activities in devotional service, called Bhagavatam. And that's not easy because Krishna consciousness needs to be applied, and the application takes patience and determination. At one point, I was given the service to take care of oxen, right? So an ox has a propensity. They have these big bodies with shoulders. Each ox, a full-grown ox, weighs 2,000 pounds. An NFL offensive lineman weighs at most 300 pounds. You know, you've seen these big guys in high school, they like to bump up against each other and against you. You know, they have this propensity to use their bodies. So the oxen has a propensity. And we used to train the oxen. And you have to train them from the point when they're a calf. And you have to see. You can't just put any two oxen together, because every single one has a different personality. We had one ox named Doyal, and that ox always had to be in front. If we put him with anybody else, he had to get in front. And so that team would just go in a circle, because he had to be in front, just had to be ahead of the other ox. We had to put him on his own single yoke. Couldn't yoke him with anyone else because he had that propensity. Some of them are very gentle and laid back. Some of them are very passionate. And some of them are bigger than others. And you can't hook up an oxen with a sparrow. You know, you have to get two oxen about the same size, about the same age, about the same temperament. And only an ox can do what an ox does. You know, you put a piece of wood over their shoulders and you teach them to walk with you, to stop, to turn left, to turn right. 4 basic instructions. If they don't get all 4 instructions, you can't stop them, what's the use? If you can't turn them, what's the use? If they won't go forward when you want them to go forward, what's the use? And not everyone is as easily trained, so, you know, out of all the different bull calves that are born, we get some that are more suited to work together and to be of the same temperament, the same size, and can work like that. But even though you're only using oxen to do what oxen do, I mean, we had at that time, we had one donkey named Atma that Tapapunj used to work with. We had Bharshana Swami used to work with horses. Horses are different than oxen. They're very impetuous and bigger. You can't hook an ox with a horse or an ox with a donkey. They're different. They have a different mentality. But still, even though you engage an ox like an oxen, at one point, if they don't do what you're asking them to do, they're useless. Right? So the difference between, it says here, Bhagavatam. This chapter is a description of Bhagavatam, religious principles and devotional service that transcend, as another level, they transcend religious principles for the liberation and mitigation of material misery. It's kind of interesting that there is that distinction. Sooner or later, there is surrender to Krishna. The inclination is to have religion without surrender. Material life is I do what feels good and I don't do what doesn't feel good. Right? That's material life. So, you know, spiritual life is about emotion, transformation, purification, elevation, transcendence, going to another level. The analogy is given like crossing the ocean. What happens when you go to the ocean and you want to cross it right at the shore? You know the way it is at the shore? You ever notice the waves are coming in, right? You're going out and the waves are coming in. So you have to go against some adversity. It's not just going to be smooth all the way. Especially in the beginning. These breakers are coming. And you have to break through that. You have to go against the current. And then if you're going to cross the ocean, there are going to be currents. There are ocean currents and rivers within the ocean that are going this way. Then one day the wind is blowing this way. One day the wind is blowing that way. One day the wind is behind you, you know. And so you can be, if you don't have a goal outside of what the current is, you're just going to be blown around in the ocean for a long time. You'll never get to the other side. Never. You just go along with the propensity of the ocean and the wind. So there's a description of Bhagavad Dharma, the highest Dharma. Religious principles and devotional service that transcend religious principles for liberation and the mitigation of not always going to be easy. Lord Rishabhdev taught his sons, what's the classic line? Tapo divyam putraka yena sattvam shudyat. Tapo divyam putraka yena sattvam shudyat. What's the translation? In the human form of life, it is appropriate to voluntarily accept austerities in the service of the Lord for the purification of our existence. Tabo divyam putraka yena sattvam shudyat. Don't try to get too cozy here, boys. We're not about warm fuzzy. We're warriors. We're going against the current. And what's the current in the material world? Manda Samanda Madhibhaga. It says that in the Kali Yuga, right? Kalo Shudra Sambhava, everyone's propensity is to be a Shudra. That's my propensity. To just, have casual sexual relations and take intoxication and eat whatever I want and sleep. That's my propensity, Prabhu. Why should I go against my propensity? It says here you should do according to your propensity. No, the beginning stages, the child, the ox, the disciple is trained, yama and niyama, things to do and things not to do, if you want to go forward, If you just want to get into a maintenance level, the mode of goodness is a great trap for the devotees. Right? We know that the mode of passion is characterized by impetuous desires and lots of activity. The mode of ignorance is laziness, inertia, and sleep. And the mode of goodness, what's the conditioning? My happiness. I just want to be happy and peaceful. I'm so good. I'm a doctor. I'm a writer. I'm whatever. But I'm a vegetarian. We're not talking about that. We're talking about devotional service to Krishna. And that involves sacrifice. That involves love. Without love. So how in the world does this ideal king apply the principle of elevating people from religious principles for the mitigation of material misery to the point of religious principles in devotional service? How does he do that? Stand over everyone with a stick? Give them a list of rules and beat them when they deviate from being what a Brahman is or what a Shudra is? What is the main tool of a leadership person? A politician, a manager? He's speaking. Just like now, this is a whole chapter about Lord Rishabhdev speaking. He's speaking to his sons. He's not going to be there at all. And they have full facility to do what his advice is or not. But he's going to speak to them. He's concerned about their benefit. They perceive the fact that he's concerned about their benefit, that he loves them, and that he's offering a roadmap. He's offering instructions in the quality of life, in the relationship between disciple and spiritual master. We had 4 or 5 phone calls yesterday from devotees asking questions. And interesting enough, every single one of them yesterday involved the relationship between guru and disciple and the subject matter of, although they didn't bring it up like that, but my perception was Krishna was giving a vision that what they're really asking about is, are they asking for the permission of the spiritual master, the advice of the spiritual master, or the instruction of the spiritual master? And they can choose. The Guru doesn't force us what quality of disciple to be, and in the beginning people are just asking advice, and sometimes they're asking permission. You've seen? Arjun Prabhu, you've seen devotees ask permission?
I have seen, I have heard, etc., etc.
And experienced. Right, so this is kind of an interesting, subtle, it's very subtle. I inquired from my guru, can I do this? Can I do this? And in the beginning stages, the guru most often will say, good, this person is inquiring, he's including me in the conversation, and he'll say, yes, yes, very good, you do like that, very good, yes, that's good, very nice. He will accept the service, which is the inclination of the disciple to do things in a certain way, or to select a particular type of activity. But then, in the conversation between Krishna and Arjuna, at one point, Arjuna says, Harishe Vachanam Tava. What's that? Yes. Now the time for friendly talks is over. Now I'm your disciple, a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct to me. I will do as you like. I will go where you want, I will do what you want, and I will say what you want. Please instruct me. And then Krishna says, fight for me. Abandon all variety, desire for gain and safety. Forget what you would rather do or rather not do. Fight for me. Stand and fight. And fighting means there's an opposition. There's someone endeavoring against you, consciously, deliberately, in a vigorous and determined way. So that's a turning point, that's a Kurukshetra moment in the disciple's life. In this chapter there is a description of Bhagavad Dharma. What does that mean, Bhagavad Dharma? Well, Bhagavad Dharma, of course, devotional service is Bhagavad Dharma, but Bhagavad Dharma is the Bhagavan, the greatest Dharma. There's Dharma, the Dharma of a mother, the Dharma of a, but all these other Dharmas are compromised, right? Sarva Dharma, Krishna says, abandon all these other Dharmas and surrender to me. Bhagavad Dharma is the highest Dharma. It transcends all the other. In the description of Bhagavad Dharma, religious principles in devotional service that transcend religious principles for liberation and the mitigation of material misery. It is stated in this chapter that a human being should not work hard like dogs and hogs for sense gratification. Sense gratification is very subtle. There's gross sense gratification and there's subtle sense gratification. Right? There's gross and subtle forms of sense gratification. What are some of the subtle forms of sense gratification? Adoration, distinction, prestige, fame, right? Profit, adoration, and distinction, right? Okay, so these are subtle. Human life is not meant for sense gratification, gross or subtle. Maya gets more and more subtle. What do they say? The wolf is dangerous, but the wolf dressed in sheep's clothing is more dangerous, right? Sometimes the hunter will put on the skin of an animal to sneak up on the herd. The Native Americans would put a buffalo skin on and they'd sneak up and then shoot the buffalo in the face from close range, And they're sneaky. Maya is sneaky. Please repeat that. Maya is sneaky. Sneaky. She's good at what she does. Pretending to be your friend, but actually testing you. And actually she is your friend in one sense because Maya is testing you. This is a test. We can pass or not. Maya sometimes disguises herself as devotional service. Becoming more and more subtle. So human life is especially meant for the revival of our relationship with the Lord. In the context of our relationship with the Lord, we care not just about what we do, but who we're doing it for. Who are we trying to please by this activity? The material paradigm is like the me generation. Me, 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 and you if it has something to do with me, if not, just me.
Mini
Me, me.
me. Mini me.
Mini me. Okay? We have to be careful. I love that thing Devananda says about before you get up in the morning, Maya already has been up, taken her shower, chanted all her rounds. She's waiting for you. She doesn't take a day off, she doesn't take a coffee break. She's on it, you know.
24/7.
Good at her service. What?
24/7. She's
24/7.
She's the greatest servant of Krishna.
Yeah, it's a dirty job. And it's important. Human life is especially meant for the revival of our relationship with the Lord. When our relationship with the Lord is there, when we know who we're trying to please, everything else falls into place. It says here, human life is meant for the revival of our relationship with the Lord, and to this end, all kinds of austerities and penances should be accepted. Austerity? Austerity? Yow. It says the Brahmins, what's their wealth? Austerity is the wealth of the Brahmins. When's the last time you heard that? You've heard it before. Was it yesterday? Was it last week? Was it any time this year? Huh? Good. Okay. We should hear it at like once every 30 seconds. To Paul, the young Putraka and the Satman should get, in the human form of life, it's appropriate to voluntarily accept austerities for the purification of our existence. And I'm sure, I haven't read it yet, but I'm sure the next sentence will say something about how austerities are beneficial and purifying. It says here, human life is especially meant for the revival of our relationship with the Supreme Lord. We love Krishna so much, we'll do anything. Gopis are willing to go to hell. Dust on our head will cure Krishna's headache. We'll take it. Give me that dust. I'll put it on my head. Aren't you afraid you'll go to hell? We don't care. Is your propensity to go to hell? No. The propensity is to please Krishna. That's the Bhagavad Dharma, right? You don't care. You just don't care what happens to you, as long as somehow or other what you're doing pleases Krishna. That's the revival of our Lord. So it says here, in the revival of our relationship with the Lord, all kinds of austerities and penances should be accepted. By austerities, one's heart can be cleansed of material contamination. It does say that. Prabhupada says that. See that? By austerities, one's heart can be cleansed of material contamination. And as a result, one can be situated on the spiritual platform. Okay, any questions or comments? It's a great austerity just to hear this every day. You know, it's scary, you know, to the false ego. It's death to the false ego. It's death to the me, me, me philosophy. It's death to the mode of goodness. I just want to be peaceful and happy. And the condition of the mode of goodness is to be happy. I just want to be happy. Gopis is thinking, I don't care if I'm happy or not, right? What's that verse about Narakashnina? They don't care if they go to heaven or hell. No, you know that verse. Svarga Pravarga Narakesh. You know that? Svarga Pravarga Narakesh. Narayana Parasavena. Svarga Pravarga Narakesh, right? What's the translation?
The devotees of Narayana, because they are serving him, they don't care whether they are in heaven or hell.
They don't care if they're in heaven or hell. That's like mind-blowing. The devotees don't care whether they go to heaven or hell. the classic good, mode of goodness pseudo-Christian philosophy, not the real Christian philosophy, but the pseudo-Christian philosophy is, I'm going to be good, and then I'm going to go to heaven. Where are you going? I'm going to heaven. You know, good girls go to heaven, bad girls go anywhere. You know, wait a minute. You don't care if you go to hell or heaven? Does that mean you're just a hedonist? No. It means that you love Krishna so much that if he wants you to go to hell to do the service that he's asking you to do, you're happy to do it. It's another platform of existence. It's called Bhagavatam, the supreme Dharma. We're distinguishing between devotional service that transcends the principles of devotional service. It transcends religious principles for liberation and the mitigation of material misery. Both are devotional service, but Prabhupada always used the word dovetail. A dovetail looks like this. Right? You ever see it? It looks like a triangle. It sort of like goes like this, closer and closer to the rear end of the dove. You know, that your starting is a starting point. Do what you can, and Krishna is pleased. Give something. We were talking the other day about Chandrasekhar Maharaj. He went to the Rath Yatra in San Francisco the first time he saw devotees, and the devotee up on the card at the end of the procession was saying, give something to the Lord, give your best. And he had just bought these sneakers that he really liked. And so he took off his sneakers and he offered them to Lord Jagannath. You know, it's nice, right? Ridiculous in one sense, but you know, good heart. He wanted to give his best, the thing he loved the most. He just heard that and said, what do I love the best? I love these sneakers. I'm going to give them. And he put his sneakers up on the Rath Yatra card. He went home barefoot.
Who's this?
On Chandrasekhar Maharaj. It was just, you know, the first time he ever saw devotees. But he heard that, you know, give something, and he did. But best thing is to wear the sneakers and work in Krishna's service, you know. He didn't exactly understand we're talking about the difference between the theory and the application of Krishna consciousness. And Rishabhadev's greatness was he's showing by his example how to apply Krishna consciousness, how to bring people to the level of serving Krishna, including people who are not so Brahminical, Shudras, Vaishyas, Kshatriyas. So when the Brahmin is there, when the Vaishnava is there, the Vaishnava can even engage people as Brahmins. There's a higher principle in Brahmin. Brahmin, can I just do this? I'm just a Brahmin. I don't do that. I'm a Brahmin. You know, and a Vaishnava will explain, no, there's something higher than that. Vaishnava will do anything that's needed. And we may start doing things that are quote unquote Brahminical or Shudra-like or whatever. But sooner or later, they come to the platform of loving Krishna so much that you're willing to do what's needed and what will please him. You know, we have to remember that may not be the starting point, but that is the objective. And that is we're going there. You may start out here in New York, and you may be going toward California, and maybe you may have to go uptown, which is north, in order to get to the George Washington Bridge to cross the Hudson River. So you went north for a while, but you're remembering that the objective is to go to California. You want to go west, even though you have to go north in order to get to a bridge to go across the big river. So, questions or comments?
What about the residents, all the residents of the spiritual world to have their service, but Krishna doesn't say, like tell a gopi to do something a cowherd boy would do, or everyone kind of has their place. So I'm just wondering, because it seems like you're saying that I says to drop anything, do anything.
I'm saying?
So I'm just wondering.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
I hope there's nothing here that I'm saying. I'm just trying to... I'm trying to repeat what Krishna says. There's a distinction between devotional service and transcends the religious principles for the mitigation of material misery, it would be very awkward for the delicate, gentle gopi to go onto the battlefield of Kurukshetra.
Yeah, so it's almost like spiritual natures are there too.
So when somebody asked Prabhupada that, which I heard in his darshan one time, the devotee's name is Advaitacharya, and he said, Prabhupada, what about our Swarup? Right? You're talking about Swarup, right? Swarup, our original identity, our original distinct, unique position in relationship to Krishna. Prabhupada said, at the point you're at, don't worry about Swarup. Follow 4 Regulative Principles and chant 16 rounds and do what you're... So I asked Prabhupada at that point, Prabhupada, what is the highest service? Because there was a big distinction. People were saying the highest service is book distribution. Other people were saying the highest service is deity worship. Prabhupada said the highest service is
To love Krishna. Please the spiritual master.
yes, to do what your authority is asking you to do. So if Krishna asked the gopis to fight in the battle of Kurukshetra, they would run out there. If he asked them to do that, they would. But on their own to say, I'm not doing that because I'm a gopi. That's Maya. Nobody with love would say anything like that. You have to imagine what these do. That's why when Uddhava went to Vrindavan, he said, oh my God, these people love Krishna so much.
Yeah. No, I'm just trying to reconcile because at least in my experience, sometimes the authority says, figure out what your nature is.
Then you should do that.
And do that.
If your authority says that, you should do that.
So therefore, that's like the surrender to the Guru. But at the same time, he's recognizing this person has a nature. Okay, you should do that. This will help you get out of that.
There's going to be sometimes Yudhishthira was inclined to be very truthful, and Krishna asked him to lie. Right? There are so many instances like that.
Those are moments. It's not, he says...
Spiritual life is built of one moment at a time.
Like a moment of doing something, but then when it comes down to really being stable in your devotional service, you want to find something that should have an inclination.
When you say you want to find...
This is what I hear from my spiritual.
Okay, well, then you should follow it. That's what Guru says that you should do like that. There's nothing wrong with that. That's perfect. Krishna himself asked Abraham, I want you to have a son. I want you to raise that son to be an exemplary religious person, and there will be descendants. But then at one point, wait a minute, at one moment, Krishna said, take your son up on the mount, take your son up on the mount and kill him, and sacrifice him on the altar. And I waited for 60 years for the son to be born. You told me to take care of the son and be a good father, and now you want me to kill my son? And the test came, and he said, well, if that's what the Lord wants. He brought the son up on the mountain, he built the altar, he tied the son up, he took the knife, and then Krishna sent an angel and said, all right, hold, listen. The Lord wanted to see if there's anything at all that you would put before what he's asking you to do. And even though you may have a propensity, and you may have a prescribed duty, you be prepared. There will come a time when your spiritual master might ask you to do something that is contrary to a previous instruction, and maybe contrary to logic, and beyond your imagination. And the test will come, whether you say, if that's what you want me to do, there's no question, I will do it.
Willingness should be there to do anything.
Right.
But in general, it's helpful for devotees
Both.
to connect because Rishabdev is also...
Not only helpful, it's a spiritual master's instruction.
Yeah.
So you should follow it to do that.
Rishabdev
You should follow it, but be careful. Be careful because it can be a trap. He's shaking his head. Saying, no. Yeah, be careful because saying that he told me to do this before, he said that I should find something I'm comfortable with. He said that will help me. It says right here. It says right. I didn't say it. I didn't say it. This is Prabhupada. Wait a minute. I didn't write this. I'm going to read what Prabhupada says here. This is the scripture.
I could things too. I could find things about Varnashram.
Well, then find things when you give class.
Devotional services is not possible unless one goes through Varnashram Dharma. So I
stuck in Varnashram
Yeah, of
Dharma.
course.
We just heard Prabhupada's class just the other day, and he said, don't get stuck in deity worship. And we were like, wow, Prabhupada said that, don't get stuck in deity worship. Stuck in deity worship? So we're trying to present everything that Prabhupada said. He said this, and there's an application.
Yeah.
So therefore, your spiritual master will tell you, and you should surrender to him and listen to him, because Krishna is speaking to you through him. And if he says something different than what I say, then kick me in the face with boot and say, doesn't matter what Adi said. My guru said do this, and do it with a full heart and full confidence that that's the way to please Krishna. But be careful. There may be a time when the test will come, and if you say, well, he told me to do this before, and I'm not comfortable doing that.
The idea is going through your nature and serving Krishna. It can purify you.
Yes.
So that you can have the willingness to be able to surrender to whatever Guru wants. But I'm just saying this stage is important before, it's just
It is.
like surrender completely now.
Absolutely
How do you
right.
get there?
You're absolutely right. We agree with you.
Like Rishabdev is also glorified for teaching Varnashram Dharma very, very specifically. And all of his sons had different places, and he wasn't saying, just forget all your ashrams, forget all your varnas, and this is what I want you to do. Some are sannyasis, some are grihastas, and he was specifically putting them in those places for the gradual,
Yes.
purification.
And then he
The
said,
idea is by doing that, you can actually get purified, where you can have the willingness to surrender to everything.
that will be helpful.
That's all.
You're right. Whatever Ganesham says, that is Shastra. This is a realized soul who is completely surrendered to his spiritual master. And he's speaking it perfectly. We totally agree with you. I have no disagreement with you whatsoever. Not in the slightest. He's still shaking his head.
You give the essence of
I'm not repeating what the verse says. The verse here says there's a distinction between religious principles for the mitigation of material misery and devotional service.
You're reminding us of the essence of the fall.
I'm just speaking Shastra.
I'm glad you.
Krishna's reminding us of the essence.
I'm glad you had that mood of just following strictly Prabhupada.
I'm just reading what the verse says.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Go to China.
Right? Yeah, right. Samal Krishna Maharaj asked to go to China.
Exactly.
He told us.
Turn them around.
I was a good manager, so I managed for 4 years not to go. And then I had to go. I realized everything else is useless. And he said, Prabhupada, I have so many buses and so many vans, and I have so many people depending on me. Prabhupada said, nobody's depending on you. And he was like, the guru was like that. He gave me the service, and I did it so well, and the disciples are coming, the books are going out, and expanding and taking shelter of me, and then he just pulls the plug on that and tells me to do something else. Yes.
Just to add one thing, I was told that even when I read I don't know which book has this in much detail, Radha Damodar Vilas, or there's a book which has this anecdote of Prabhupada telling him go to China. The success, that means brahmacharis, books, Lakshmi and everything, had its cost. And the cost was, it was causing a vertical split in the movement. And Prabhupada was willing to sort of let go the benefits. But the watchword he told again, Kiba Vipra Kiba Nyasi Shudra Kene Noi, that words became, Prabhupada repeated again that brahmacharis are becoming proud that they are getting more Lakshmi, and the grihasthas are banding together and saying, we are banning the brahmacharis from this particular area, we should not come there. So that could have been more detrimental in the future.
It was not pleasing to Krishna.
So the young blood was only interested in the numbers.
Right.
But Prabhupada was seeing farther 10 miles ahead.
That's right.
And therefore he just nipped it in the bud. He says, no, we don't need that.
Right. What we might be attached to the form of devotional service that we're engaged in, to the point where we abandon the fact that the spiritual master has the right and the duty and sees the necessity of challenging us against our conditioning. Upadeshamrita says, one who can control the urge to speak, the mind's demand, the pushings of anger, the urges of the tongue, belly, and genitals. So the urge of the mind, our conditioning, is to find ourselves in a nice little cozy niche that we're comfortable with, so we can be steady and no disturbance, and we'll be peaceful and happy. Me in the center. It's a subtle form of Maya. Devotional service, Maya disguised as devotional service. Please.
Prabhupada also compared the four brothers, two are massaging his arms, two are massaging his legs, and then they start deciding among themselves, and then they start beating of the father's body.
Right.
So he said, although you have grabbed a particular aspect of my body and are trying to serve me, but because of your competitive nature, you're hurting me more than what you can serve me.
Right. I heard it slightly differently, but the same story. Two brothers massaging, one this side, one that side. And then they became competitive. So one was thinking, I can make my brother look bad if I punch my father on the side when he's massaging. And the other brother said, oh yeah, I'll punch my father on the side when you're massaging, so they're thinking of their own prominence in devotional service and their own prestige as being pleasing to the spiritual master at the expense of the spiritual master who's feeling the pain of getting punched. So it's true, Maya can sneak in, and our competitive nature, our selfish nature, can come to the point where we actually do things that are contrary to devotional service in the name of putting ourselves forward in devotional service. It's just a word of caution. I mean, it just happened to be the verse that we got today. And sometimes it's not mentioned, that there's a distinction between religious principles for the liberation and mitigation of material misery and religious principles in devotional service. What is it?
Repeat that.
Okay. There's a description of Bhagavatam, religious principles in devotional service that transcend religious principles for the mitigation, for liberation and the mitigation of material misery. In other words, devotional service is on another platform. It's not about liberation. It's not about the mitigation of my material misery so that I'm comfortable and happy. It's about pleasing Krishna. They want the kingdom of God without God, Prabhupada said. They want religion without surrender, without sacrifice. They want religion without love of Krishna. They want to go to the spiritual world, but they're not thinking of going there to please Krishna. Whereas the devotees, gopis are exemplary. Narayana Parasave, Nakatishna Vibhuti, Svarga Pravarga Narakesh. The devotees are willing to go to heaven or hell. If you want to be a devotee, this is the path. Tipo divyam putraka yena sakam shudya. Voluntarily accept austerities in the service of the Lord for the purification of our existence. This cleanses, it says here, austere activities cleanse one heart of material contamination. Austerity is the wealth of the Brahmins, but we don't want that wealth. Seems bitter in the beginning. Two paths. Pravritti marg, nivritti marg. One of them seems bitter in the beginning. very sweet in the end, as our love for Krishna is growing. Okay, well, glories to Srila Prabhupada. Any other questions or comments? We certainly welcome, corrections, and we super welcome Ganesham Prabhu's perfect, synthesis of the two apparent, contrary philosophies. That one is good for beginning with and will help you to come to the other one. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.